All right, we're doing a paper weaving for this project, and what you will need is 2 different colors of paper. If all you have at home is white paper, you can do a white page and then you can color or watercolor a second page so that it's a different color. And then what we're going to be doing before we start actually doing our paper weaving is designing our papers with some patterns. So you can do simple patterns or you can do the Zentangle style patterns that we did before this. So what you want to do is just kind of fill up your paper with an interesting pattern before we start our paper weaving. You can do it with just black or you can use different colors. You can use Sharpies or markers if you have them, would work best. If not, you can try a crayon or colored pencil. But if you're on construction paper, that might be a little bit more difficult to see. Okay, so I finished making patterns on one of my pages. I can either stop with just one paper with patterns, or I can go ahead and do patterns on my second page. So I'm going to go and do that. That way you can see what it looks like and decide if you want to do 2 pages with patterns. So you want 2 different colors of paper. If all you have is white, you can paint or watercolor one and use white for the other one. And then you want to do patterns on at least 1 page, but if you want to do patterns on 2 pages, you can do that as well. If you have a dark color like this one, you want to make sure you're using dark colors that would show up. If I tried to use like a yellow or light pink, it would not show up on this paper. So keep that in mind. You can see here that these patterns are a little more complicated, similar to the Zentangle patterns, not quite that complicated. And then these are more simple, using just plain lines for patterns. So either of those is okay as you're deciding how you want to do your patterns. You can make them more complicated or keep them more simple. I've made my patterns on both my papers, which is an option if you just want to do patterns on one paper. Remember, that's okay. Okay, to do our paper weaving, I'm going to need my 2 pages that I started doing patterns on. And I'm going to need a ruler, a pair of scissors, glue. A glue stick is easiest, but if all you have is a glue bottle, you can use that. You're going to want a pencil and an eraser just in case. Okay, so if you only did patterns on one paper, you're going to put that page to the side for now and do the page that has no patterns. If you did patterns on both of your papers, then you're going to take one of those and fold it towards the inside so that you're hiding the patterns. Okay, and see how this is folded just like a book, okay, with our patterns on the inside. Okay, now that I have that folded, I'm going to turn it like this. Notice I am going to have the unfolded part right here, so my fold is towards the bottom and it opens at the top. At the top, I'm going to draw a straight line. In a minute here, I'm going to start cutting, and this line is going to tell me where to stop. So I want to make sure that line is there to help me remember to stop my scissors. The next thing to do is to draw straight lines this way. You can either make them all the same width, or you can make them a variety of widths. So like these are kind of medium, I can do fat, I can do skinny. So my lines can be any kind of width here, regular, wide, or thin. Okay, once I have those lines, I'm ready for my scissors. I'm going to take these, and remember, I am cutting only to that line, and then I stop, so it's still connected. If I don't stop, I'm going to be turning my paper into strips, and that's not what I want. Okay? All right, so just finish up cutting your straight lines all the way to that line at the top. All right, so I have these cut. I'm going to open it, and that is the back of my paper, and now you can see my pattern that was in the middle is the top of the paper. Okay, so now I have finished the first step of making the second step. I'm going to use my second piece of paper, and I'm going to be making my lines in this direction. So notice I have my paper horizontal and my ruler vertical so that I'm making short strips. I do not want to make long strips like this. I want short strips. Okay. So if you want to draw the lines to help you, I suggest turning your paper over so you're drawing on the back so you don't mess up your patterns with your pencil. That way you won't see them at the end. And again, just like before, you can either make all of these lines the same width, or you can make some fat and some thin if you want a variety. And I'm just going to make these lines all the way to the end so that it makes cutting them easy. So now I'm going to cut a strip. And then I'm going to use the strip to weave. Okay, so I'm just cutting one at a time. I've cut it. I'm going to flip it so my pattern's up so I can see both patterns. And now I'm going to start weaving. So our pattern for weaving is over, under, over, under. So I'm going to go take this, kind of see how I'm holding that up. So I can go over the first one and then under the second. And then over the next one and under that. And this is just the pattern all the way through. Over, under, over, under, over, under. Okay, all the way until you reach the end. Then you're going to push your paper all the way down to the bottom of your cut. And you're going to take your glue stick, and this is helpful because you won't have to worry about your paper slipping out or sliding around or falling out. So you just want to put a little bit of glue on each end and stick them down. All right, I'm just going to repeat the same step. So I'm going to cut with scissors. And this is where things change. I started with over, so this time I'm going to go under. Under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over. And then just like last time, slide it all the way down. And what you should see happening is kind of like a checkerboard pattern here. So you'll want to just be careful that you are doing each one separate and you haven't accidentally skipped over two. Glue down your ends so they don't slide around. And cut your next strip. Now, some common mistakes are either to start off wrong. So, see, this one's under, so this one should go over under like that. But if I'm not paying attention and I do it the exact same way as I did the last one, you can see there's no checkerboard here. So that's common mistake number one. The second mistake is accidentally skipping spaces. So if I start off right, but like right here I skip and I do too many, then I haven't done the weaving correctly. Now, if I was doing some kind of fancy pattern where I was doing skipping on purpose, that would be different. But for our project today, we don't want to accidentally skip over. So make sure you keep your pattern of over, under going correctly. Stick it down. And stick it down. Okay, I'm going to keep going, finish up, and then I'll show you some options for some extra things you can do to make your weaving interesting. Once you have your last one in, go ahead and glue it down. And then you can start thinking about some of the extra things that you could do. For example, you could create tassels on the ends of yours. The easiest way to do that is to use some of this extra paper and cut it into small strips. You take these small strips and then just glue them to the back so that they look like little tassels. Like that. You could also, if you have a hole puncher in yarn, you could punch holes and then attach yarn at the end to make tassels. You can also weave in extra stuff. So if you have yarn or newspaper or pipe cleaners, you could weave those in. So for example, here I have a pipe cleaner, so I can take this and I could add it into my weaving. If you decide to do any of this extra stuff, just be careful because your weaving is going to be a little tight. Okay. You could also use these pipe cleaners if you wanted as your tassels at the bottom. And if you didn't want to use paper, you can take these papers and weave in extra ones in random spots to kind of add some fun little details. Okay. You can cut shapes and add those to your design. So I've got like a little heart there. And see, I cut out this little pattern that looks like a heart. I could glue that somewhere as well. So there's just some ideas. Remember, you can also use yarn or newspaper. You can make tassels out of paper, yarn, or pipe cleaners, just to add some fun to it. And when you're all done, you're going to take your picture. You're going to upload it to Google Classroom. And if you want, when everything is finished and dry, you can also share a picture of you holding your artwork if you want.